They are the first voice you hear in a crisis, the calm amidst the chaos, the lifeline between panic and help, bridging the gap between fear and relief. Emergency call handlers are anonymous guardians, trained to assess, to calm, and to dispatch aid with precision, ensuring that every second is utilized effectively. Lives hang in the balance with every call they answer, each decision potentially altering the course of someone's fate. Their role is more than just taking down information. It's about interpreting the urgency and providing the right response. It's about deciphering urgency in a cacophony of fear and distress, filtering out the noise to find the critical details. It's about making split-second judgments that can mean the difference between life and death, a responsibility that weighs heavily on their shoulders. Their composure under pressure can dictate the fate of those in desperate need. A testament to their training and dedication, the stakes are incredibly high. Every second counts, and every moment is a race against time. And yet, the immense responsibility placed on emergency call handlers often goes unnoticed, their efforts hidden behind the scenes, their work happening silently, behind the scenes of unfolding tragedies and triumphs, often without recognition or thanks. But what happens when the vital link falters? When the system that is supposed to save lives makes a critical error? What happens when the voice on the other end of the line makes a mistake? The consequences can be far-reaching and devastating. The consequences can be devastating, turning a moment of hope into a tragedy. The call came in just after 2 a.m., piercing the stillness of the night with a sense of urgency. A frantic mother, her voice thick with terror, reported that her 5-year-old son was struggling to breathe, his small chest rising and falling with alarming difficulty. He was wheezing, she said, his chest heaving with each desperate gasp for air, the sound of his struggle echoing through the phone. She needed an ambulance, and she needed it now, her voice breaking with desperation. The call handler, a young man still new to the job, tried to calm the distraught mother, his own nerves barely concealed. He asked for their address, the child's symptoms, and basic medical history, his voice steady but his hands shaking. But amidst the urgency, a series of missteps began to unfold, each one compounding the mother's growing fear. Instead of immediately dispatching an ambulance, the call handler, bound by protocol, proceeded through a checklist of questions, unaware of the ticking clock. He inquired about potential allergies, recent illnesses, and medications, his tone detached, almost mechanical, as if reading from a script. With each passing second, the mother's panic grew, her pleas becoming more frantic. Unbeknownst to the call handler, precious time was slipping away, each moment a lost opportunity for intervention. The child's condition was deteriorating rapidly, his breaths becoming more shallow and erratic. The mother, desperate and alone, could only watch in horror as her son's breathing became more labored, her heart breaking with each passing second. The call handler, overwhelmed by the mother's distress and his own inexperience, failed to recognize the severity of the situation. His mind raced, but he couldn't focus on the critical details that were slipping through the cracks. The pressure of the moment clouded his judgment, making it difficult to prioritize the life-threatening emergency over routine procedures. He clung to the script, asking about the child's insurance information, a procedural detail that paled in comparison to the unfolding medical emergency. The urgency of the moment was lost in the mundane questions he was trained to ask. This adherence to protocol, while usually beneficial, became a hindrance in this critical situation, diverting attention from the immediate need for medical intervention. He asked the mother if she could drive her son to the hospital herself, failing to grasp the gravity of the boy's respiratory distress. The mother's frustration grew as she realized the call handler was not understanding the dire situation. Her pleas for an ambulance were met with confusion and procedural questions, exacerbating her sense of helplessness. The suggestion, bordering on absurd given the circumstances, only amplified the mother's terror. She was desperate for immediate help, not more questions or impractical suggestions. The call handler's inability to deviate from the script and provide the necessary assistance left the mother feeling abandoned in her moment of crisis. The call handler's adherence to protocol, while intended to ensure a thorough assessment, morphed into a dangerous obstacle. His focus on the checklist blinded him to the real emergency unfolding on the other end of the line. The rigid structure of the protocol left no room for the call handler to exercise personal judgment or respond to the unique demands of the situation. His inability to deviate from the script, to truly listen and discern the urgency in the mother's pleas, set in motion a chain of tragic consequences. The mother's voice, filled with panic, was a clear signal that was tragically ignored. The call handler's lack of experience and rigid adherence to protocol prevented him from recognizing the critical nature of the situation. These were not malicious errors, but errors nonetheless. They were the result of a system that failed to prepare its operators for real-world crises. The call handler's regret was palpable as he reflected on the missed opportunities to provide the necessary help. The system's shortcomings became painfully evident in this tragic case. Errors born from a system that prioritized procedure over human judgment, and from a lack of training that left the call handler ill-equipped to navigate the complexities of a life-or-death situation. The system's flaws were laid bare in this moment of crisis, highlighting the need for a more human-centered approach. The inadequacies in training and the overemphasis on protocol underscored the urgent need for reforms to better prepare call handlers for real emergencies. The tragedy of this case lays bare a systemic issue plaguing emergency call centers across the country: the burden of overwhelming call volumes. These centers are often understaffed, leading to longer wait times and increased pressure on the available operators. The sheer number of calls can be staggering, especially during peak times or major incidents, leaving call handlers struggling to keep up, and the inadequate training provided to those on the front lines of emergency response. Call handlers are often thrust into high-stress environments with minimal preparation. They are expected to handle a wide range of emergencies, from minor incidents to life-threatening situations, with little room for error. The training they receive is frequently insufficient, focusing more on procedural knowledge than on practical real-world scenarios. They are tasked with fielding a constant barrage of calls, ranging from minor incidents like noise complaints or minor accidents to life-threatening emergencies such as heart attacks, fires, or violent crimes. The pressure is immense, and the stakes are incredibly high. Each call could mean the difference between life and death, adding to the stress and urgency of their work. The training often insufficient. The consequences of understaffing and inadequate training are dire. Many call handlers find themselves overwhelmed, unable to cope with the sheer volume of calls and the gravity of the situations they must manage. This can lead to mistakes, delays, and ultimately, tragic outcomes. Burnout rates among call handlers are alarmingly high, with many leaving the profession after just a few years. The constant stress and emotional toll can be too much to bear, leading to high turnover rates, leading to a revolving door of inexperienced personnel. This lack of continuity further exacerbates the problem, making it difficult to maintain a stable and effective workforce. New hires often lack the experience needed to handle complex or high-stress situations, leading to a cycle of inadequate response and increased pressure on the remaining staff, creating a vicious cycle of understaffing, inadequate training, and high turnover. This cycle undermines the effectiveness of emergency response efforts, putting both call handlers and the public at risk, and ultimately, compromised emergency response. The tragic case of the 5-year-old boy is a stark reminder of the real-world consequences of these systemic issues. When call handlers are overwhelmed and underprepared, lives are at stake. That we cannot afford to treat emergency call handling as a low-priority profession. The stakes are simply too high. Every call is a potential crisis, and the ability to respond effectively can mean the difference between life and death. These individuals are the first line of defense in countless emergencies, and their role is critical. They must be equipped with the skills, knowledge, and support needed to perform their duties effectively, and their ability to make quick, accurate judgments can have life-altering consequences. Investing in their training and well-being is not just beneficial, but essential for the safety and security of our communities. Proper training, adequate staffing, and ongoing support are crucial to ensuring that emergency call handlers can perform their vital role effectively. Section 5. The Price of Failure. The ambulance, finally dispatched after an inexcusable delay, arrived at the family's home to find the young boy unconscious, his breathing shallow and erratic. The family had been waiting in sheer panic, every second feeling like an eternity. The delay in response time was due to a series of miscommunications and procedural errors that could have been avoided with better training and resources. He was rushed to the hospital, but the precious minutes lost had taken their toll. The medical team was prepared, but the delay had already set the stage for a tragic outcome. The hospital staff, despite their expertise and readiness, were fighting against the clock, a battle they were tragically destined to lose. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, the boy never regained consciousness. The doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, but the damage was irreversible. The team employed every technique and resource at their disposal, but the critical window for saving his life had already closed. He died 3 days later, his life cut tragically short by a preventable tragedy. The family was left to grapple with an unimaginable loss. Their grief was compounded by the knowledge that timely intervention could have saved their son, a thought that would haunt them forever. The official cause of death: acute respiratory failure, a term that now carried a weight of sorrow and regret for the grieving family. The diagnosis, while clinical, could not capture the depth of their pain and the sense of injustice they felt. The boy's family was left devastated, their grief compounded by the knowledge that their son's death could have been avoided. The emotional toll was immeasurable. They found solace in each other, but the void left by their son's absence was a constant reminder of their loss. The call handler's mistakes, though unintentional, had cost them everything. The pressure and stress of the job had led to a fatal error. The call center was understaffed and overwhelmed, a situation that had dire consequences for those in need of urgent help. The pain of their loss, a constant ache, would forever be intertwined with the haunting question, what if? The empty room, a stark reminder of what was taken from them. The family clung to memories and mementos, each item a bittersweet reminder of their beloved son. The boy's death served as a grim reminder of the human cost of failures in emergency response systems, a cost that is often paid in the most heartbreaking of ways. The family's mourning at the grave was a poignant symbol of the systemic issues that needed urgent attention. It highlighted the devastating consequences of inadequate training, overwhelming workloads, and a systemic undervaluing of the critical role played by emergency call handlers. The need for reform was clear, to prevent such tragedies from happening again. The call for better training, more resources, and systemic changes was not just about improving efficiency, but about saving lives. Section 6. Learning from Tragedy. The tragic case sparked outrage and prompted a thorough investigation into the emergency response system. Public outcry was immense, with citizens demanding accountability and immediate reforms. The call handler, racked with guilt and remorse, resigned shortly after the incident. The emotional toll on the staff was profound, highlighting the need for better support systems. The investigation revealed systemic flaws within the emergency call center. Understaffing was rampant, training was inadequate, and the equipment was outdated, all contributing to the failure. The pressure to adhere to rigid protocols often overshadowed sound judgment. Call handlers were overwhelmed, leading to critical mistakes during emergencies. The boy's death, while heartbreaking, became a catalyst for change. The community's grief turned into a powerful movement for reform. The city implemented mandatory crisis intervention training for all call handlers, focusing on recognizing urgency, de-escalation techniques, and mental health awareness. Handlers were empowered to deviate from the script when necessary, ensuring they could respond more effectively to unique situations. The investigation also led to increased funding for the emergency call center, enabling significant improvements in infrastructure and resources. This allowed for the hiring of additional staff, reducing the workload on individual call handlers and improving response times. A more robust training program was implemented, focusing on practical skills and real-life scenarios to better prepare handlers for emergencies. The goal was clear: to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again. The reforms aimed to create a more responsive and compassionate emergency response system. Section 7. A call for change. This tragedy underscores the urgent need for a nationwide overhaul of emergency response systems, highlighting the critical gaps that can lead to devastating consequences. We must demand better for those on the front lines and for the communities they serve, ensuring that every call for help is met with the highest standard of care and efficiency. We must invest in comprehensive training programs that equip call handlers with the skills and knowledge necessary to make life-saving decisions under pressure, including advanced scenario-based training and psychological support. Training should go beyond rote memorization of protocols and emphasize critical thinking, active listening, and empathy, fostering a deeper understanding of the human element in emergency situations. We must address the issue of understaffing and burnout within emergency call centers, which can severely impact the quality of service and the well-being of the call handlers themselves. Increased funding is essential to hire and retain qualified personnel, reducing workloads and creating a more sustainable work environment, ultimately leading to better outcomes for those in need. And finally, we must foster a culture of continuous improvement within emergency response systems, encouraging innovation and adaptability in the face of new challenges. This includes regular evaluations of protocols, investment in new technologies, and ongoing training to keep pace with evolving best practices, ensuring that our emergency response systems are always at their best. Section 8. Beyond the call. The responsibility for effective emergency response extends beyond the walls of call centers. It involves coordinated efforts from various emergency services, including police, fire, and medical teams, working together seamlessly. We, as a society, must also play our part in ensuring that those in need receive timely and effective assistance. This includes participating in community training sessions and staying informed about emergency procedures. Public awareness campaigns can educate citizens on how to effectively communicate with emergency call handlers. These campaigns can provide crucial information on what details to convey and how to stay calm during emergencies. Clear, concise information, a calm demeanor, and a willingness to follow instructions can greatly assist call handlers in assessing the situation and dispatching appropriate aid. This can make a significant difference in the outcome of an emergency. Furthermore, advancements in technology, such as location-based services and AI-assisted dispatch systems, can enhance the speed and accuracy of emergency response. These technologies enable quicker identification of the caller's location and more efficient resource allocation. Embracing these innovations can significantly improve response times and potentially save lives. Rapid deployment of emergency services is crucial in critical situations where every second counts. Ultimately, creating a more resilient and responsive emergency response system requires a multi-pronged approach, one that encompasses investments in training, technology, and public awareness. By working together, we can build a system that is better equipped to handle emergencies and protect lives. GAP 3S, Section 9, the human element. At the heart of every emergency call is a human being, a person in distress, a life at risk, a family in turmoil. These moments are often the most critical and vulnerable times in a person's life, where every second counts and every word matters. It is easy to focus on the systems, the technology, and the protocols, which are all essential for efficient and effective emergency response. Advanced software, real-time data, and precise coordination are crucial components that enable quick and accurate decision-making. But we must never lose sight of the human element. The empathy, understanding, and compassion that call handlers bring to their roles are irreplaceable. Their ability to connect with callers on a personal level can make a significant difference in the outcome of an emergency. Each call is a story, a unique narrative filled with urgency, fear, and hope. These stories are not just data points. They are real experiences that impact real lives. A moment in someone's life that could change everything. The stakes are incredibly high, and the responsibility on the shoulders of call handlers is immense. The call handlers, too, are human. They experience stress, fatigue, and emotional strain just like anyone else. Their job requires them to be calm and composed, even in the most chaotic situations. They carry the weight of these stories, the pressure of making split-second decisions that can have life-altering consequences. The emotional toll of knowing that their actions can mean the difference between life and death is profound. The pressure of making split-second decisions, often with limited information and under intense stress, is a constant challenge. They must remain focused and decisive, even when the situation is dire. And the emotional toll of knowing that their actions can mean the difference between life and death. This responsibility can be overwhelming, and it is essential to acknowledge the mental and emotional burden they bear. It is crucial to provide them with not just the tools and training they need to perform their duties effectively, but also the emotional support and recognition they deserve. Comprehensive training programs ensure they are well prepared for any situation, but also the emotional support and recognition they deserve. Mental health resources, peer support programs, and regular debriefings can help call handlers manage the stress and trauma that come with their vital role. These resources are essential for their well-being and effectiveness, and regular debriefings can help call handlers manage the stress and trauma that come with their vital role. These sessions provide a safe space for them to express their feelings and receive support from their peers. By supporting them, we ensure that they can continue to support us when we need it most. Acknowledging their hard work and dedication is crucial for their morale and motivation. The human element is the core of emergency response. Let us honor it, nurture it, and never take it for granted. By valuing the people behind the calls, we strengthen the entire emergency response system. And never take it for granted. Their dedication and compassion are the foundation of effective emergency response, and we must always remember to appreciate and support them. Section 9. Investing in life. The lives of our loved ones, our neighbors, and ourselves depend on the effectiveness of our emergency response systems. These systems are the backbone of our safety net, ensuring that help is available when we need it most. We cannot afford to wait for another tragedy to spur us into action. Each delay in improving these systems can result in irreversible loss and suffering. Investing in emergency response is not merely a budgetary consideration. Let us advocate for the resources, training, and support that emergency call handlers need to perform their critical duties effectively. Their role is crucial in the chain of survival, and they must be empowered to succeed. The time for complacency is over. We must act with urgency and commitment to ensure that our emergency response systems are robust and reliable. The time for action is now. Together, we can build a safer future by prioritizing the effectiveness and readiness of our emergency response teams.